There is a sickness in the way we read today. We call it the TBR, the to be read list. We treat literature like a grocery run. Finish the chapter, update the progress bar, move on to the next one. We kind of want the dopamine hit of saying, I'm done. I'm Ashmita and I have Shubhendu here with me. And in this season of Infinite TBR Lists, we will talk about a type of book that is designed deliberately to never be finished.
Yeah, these books are kind of broken, glitchy, loopy, digressive, but so is life.
These books, but they are also deeply immersive. They give us philosophical insights into the nature of human cognition, reality, history, and so on. And the best thing is that you only need a couple of these to fill your heads all year long.
We have today books from Joyce to David Foster Wallace to I think you have Nabokov, we have Murakami and more.
Yeah. Well, do you remember that scene in Harry Potter where Dudley Dursley throws a tantrum for getting 36 presents instead of 37 on his birthday? Well, it feels like some people get that competitive over the number of books that they have finished reading. So let's talk about books that do not require finishing. They are not stories, they are puzzles.
Yeah.
And once you enter them, the only way you can get back is through the entrance.
Yes, absolutely. And my favorite book in this kind of loopy books, circuitous books, is Joyce's Finnegans Wake. And I have read this book about 5, 6 times, read with quotes, because you cannot just read it for the plot. And that bothered me as a college student. But now I realize that that is precisely the point. It took Joyce 17 years to write the book. And it is, as I said, written in a kind of dream language. And if you open, you will get kind of a sense of what is going on, but I will just show you how circuitous it is. So if you open the very end, the last sentence is away alone, a lust, a loved, along the, and it kind of forces you to go back to the beginning where the first sentence starts midway. River run past even Adams from swerve of shore to bend of bay. So it kind of creates a perfect loop. And that's kind of the main point of Joyce, that life or history in general moves in circles.
Yeah, I love Joyce, like other works, Dubliners and Portrait of an Artist, but this one is a bit of a challenge for me.
Yeah, I think the challenge is kind of part of the point, and I found it challenging too. But we have become so accustomed to reading for plot, and this novel forces us to not focus on plot or character or even the reality that is unfolding, but on kind of a continuous flow, a sort of unconscious or subconscious. So I think once you stop thinking about the plot and start enjoying the flow, the novel becomes quite readable.
Yeah, well, I need a murder mystery if I am going to read an infinite loop of a novel. So let me nominate this book. It's a novel by Flann O'Brien. It's called The Third Policeman. So the story's first line, How I Killed Old Philip Matthews, creates a kind of loopy time environment, right? And also, the novel is filled with footnotes of the fictional philosopher De Silby, whose absurd theories on time, on the Earth's shape, and so on is sometimes utterly absurd, confusing. They are also they are full of insights about the plot itself. For example, there is a kind of metafictional a note at the end which literally says, hell goes round and round, in shape it is circular, and by nature it is interminable, repetitive, and very nearly unbearable. So, yeah.
Yeah, that really sounds intriguing. But like, is there a point to all of that? I always wanted to read the novel, but I heard it has about like bicycles and atoms and a lot of random things. So, did you kind of make an overall sense of it?
Yeah, it's kind of full of absurd details like this police station filled of policemen who talk incessantly about bicycles and so on. So yeah, the book is random. Literally, humans and bicycles exchange atoms, and reality continuously shifts. So yeah, it's full of inherent randomness. There's also kind of a subtle critique of bureaucracy and science for imposing a superficial order on the nature of reality, which is inherently chaotic and absurd.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting because it does remind me of, David Foster Wallace's Infinite Jest. And this novel is huge and the plot is kind of scrambled, but it has a really interesting kind of dark humor. And so what happens in this novel is the plot kind of revolves around a film, and people watch a film which is also called Infinite Jest, or alternately the entertainment, and it kind of compels people to watch it over and over. So that relates to how we infinitely scroll and so on. And interestingly, where the novel is set, the time is called subsidized time. But again, the author is playing with the ending. So what is actually the ending happens at the very beginning. So the very first chapter is the ending. First 20 or so pages is actually the end of the story. So when you go to the end, page one, around, like, it depends on the edition, but it's around somewhere around 1,000 pages. Then you have to flip back to the beginning to make sense of it all.
Wow. So it's this book is like a mathematical puzzle. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you were so right about the mathematical puzzle point, because David Foster Wallace actually structured the novel to imitate a specific mathematical object called Sierpinski Gasket. Yeah, and it is a fractal structure that recursively subdivides infinitely. But the book ultimately is not about mathematics.
Thank God.
It offers a commentary on modern societies, our obsession with passive consumption, the way we sort of amuse or entertain ourselves to death. It urges us to engage with life's complexities. And in the same way that you need to have slow, attentive focus to read the novel, it kind of creates that model of mindfulness, I think.
Very nicely. Yeah, I need to read this one. Okay, so now let's talk about some novels where the trap isn't time, it is space. Some authors build books that function like mazes. You don't need them, you don't read them, you navigate them. So Vladimir Nabokov's Pale Fire, it looks like a novel. Well, it is a novel in a sense, but it has some. For example, the first part of it is like poetry. See, these are like verses. Yeah, and then the second part of it, like the last 200 pages, it's like a commentary on that poem. So this commentary is by a deranged editor. His name is Charles Kimpert, and he believes himself to be the exiled king of
I think Zimbabwe.
Zimbabwe. Yeah,
Something,
Zimbabwe.
yeah.
Yeah. So King Charles the Beloved. So
Yeah.
yeah,
That's really hilarious. Yeah.
yeah. And this story is also partly hidden in the footnotes. So to read it, you have to go flip back and forth, jumping from page 30 to page 150 and then back again and so on. So it has a lot of endnotes, and you kind of become a detective. So you piece together a murder that may or may not have happened. So it's a mystery, but you don't need to solve this puzzle or even finish the book. In fact, I think Nabokov also satirizes the fantasy of ultimate meaning by showing how a critic or editor, in this case Kimbot, can hijack a poem to center his own fantasy. So I would say the book sort of suggests that we don't need to find the ultimate meaning, which is something like a lot of detective novels. They focus on that there is a solution to a problem. The puzzle can be solved following so and so methods. You only need to look at it in the right way. But this novel suggests otherwise, that we need to dwell in the complexity of a problem, and that's it.
But if it has that kind of a puzzle or commentary structure, I think it reminds me strongly of Murakami's The Strange Library.
This one is a favorite.
Yeah, which has this kind of a beautiful structure as well.
Yeah, it comes in a box. You have
Yeah,
to
it
open
comes.
the
Yeah,
box,
there
and
is
then
this
the book
box.
comes out.
Yeah, and if you open it, it kind of opens like this, almost like a manuscript, and it has all these really large font printing, which is really beautiful, and it starts in a library and goes like the library was even more hushed than usual. And it is basically about a boy who goes to a library to return a book, but then he's sent to the basement. He's locked in a safe. He's forced to memorize books by a sheep man. And why? Because the librarian apparently wants to eat his brains, because the brain tastes better when they are full of knowledge. And I think, in a sense, it is an allegory of an allegorical contrast between the innocent curiosity of the boy and the authoritarian desire for control on the part of the librarian. The book is quite easy to read. I think both of us read it during our masters. And it's probably the easiest text
Yeah,
in
you
this
can
list.
you can just read it at a go, but then you can read it again and again. So, and it's really pretty. Like, look, it starts out with a picture of a shoe, and then on every page there are these pictures which are related to like vaguely connected texts. So there's this creepy clock,
Yeah,
and more. I mean, there's a donut. Yeah, it's just full of these beautiful pictures. It's definitely one of my all-time favorites, I would say.
yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah. But since we are talking about strange libraries, we need to talk about Milorad Pavić's, if I'm pronouncing correctly. It's a Serbian novel, and it's called The Dictionary of Khazars. So the Khazars were imperial people. They were imperial from 7th to 10th century
Yeah, they were
approximately.
empire.
Anyway, so this is the dictionary, but it is not really a dictionary. It claims to be a kind of a record of the lost people, the Khazars, and it is divided into three sections. So there is a Christian section, an Islamic section, and Hebrew section. They are all sources, and they all contradict each other. So you have to sort of assemble the history yourself. And there are there's this little inscriptions in Hebrew,
Mm.
and then there's also other languages, and there are pictures. This one says that this is a picture of Constantine from a 9th century fresco, but we are never really sure whether all this history is like actually authentic sources or not. And it is a bit meandering, but I would say that it is quite fun to read. It shows how tradition and religion and all these large narratives are ultimately constructed depending on where one stands.
Right. Yeah. It's. I got a lot of strong recommendations about this book. I really need to read it.
Speaking of reimagined histories, in the coming episode, I am going to be taking a deep dive into the language of fashion and flowers in Bridgerton and analyzing the show in relation to Regency history. So please make sure that you are subscribed for that. Okay,
Yeah,
coming
I'm,
back.
I'm excited.
Okay, let's come back to the library.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then, if Pavić's book is a sort of an imaginary or imaginative reconstruction of history and lexicon, then there is the ultimate cinematic freeze frame. It's a French novel. Of course, I have read it in translation. It's Georges Perec's Life, a User's Manual. And the name is it kind of sounds like almost a non-fictional book. But basically, the entire book takes place in a single second, 8 p.m. on June 23, 1975, in a fictional Parisian apartment block. And Perec describes every single object, person, history in every room in exhaustive details. And, some parts of it are like, uh, puzzles, some parts are just letters. And it has all sorts of details from a racing cyclist's confessions to an eccentric millionaire's vacations. So it is an attempt to catalog the infinite complexity of the now, the current moment. So it basically shows that life, like the apartment building, is a vast, complex collection of stories where individual failures and small connections and all these kind of micro stories, they ultimately form a rich, meaningful whole. So this is a great book to read when the year is still fresh and you can immerse into all these different people's lives.
Yeah. We have talked about all kinds of traps, but we have not talked about the most dangerous trap of all, which is the digression trap. The digression trap, yeah. These are books that promise to tell you a story and then they absolutely refuse to do it. And the grandfather of them all is Laurence Sterne's Tristram Shandy. So this is an 18th century novel that understood us very well. Tristram tries to tell you the story of his life, but then he's so easily distracted that by book three, like that's the book within the book, he hasn't even been born yet. He stops to talk about everything. He talks about noses. He stops to draw like a little something on the page, and he leaves a blank page for you to draw your own things.
Lover.
Yeah, your
Yeah.
lover, whatever. So he completely digresses, forgets about what he's talking about. Sterne kind of understood something profound, that the human mind does not go in a straight line; it wanders.
Yeah, when I first got my copy of Sterne, for some reason I thought that some pages are missing. But then I later realized that's how he wrote the novel. Actually, do you know that Sterne took this technique of interesting digressions and pages from Robert Burton's
Ah,
The Anatomy of Melancholy?
is that fiction?
No, definitely not. It's a manual on melancholia or what we would call probably depression, and it's all on all the humors. And it is actually like a huge, more than kind of 1,000-page long encyclopedic account of every thought that humanity had up to the year
So
1621.
not just medical, but
No,
other.
no, and the fun part is you can open the book anywhere. So you want to read on choler, which is a specific kind of temperament, hot and dry and bitter, and then he will start talking about how it is related to specific parts of the mind. He will start talking about Aristotle, etc.
Yeah.
So it's crazy. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. In a sense, you can say that it's like the original internet,
yeah,
like
it's like a mode
some
of
kind of
analog.
labyrinth of hyperlinks.
Yeah, yeah, it's like an analog. Great book for analog doom scrolling. So you can get lost in the footnotes, and you definitely don't need to worry about the last page here.
Yeah.
This proves that this book is from the 17th century, so it proves that we have been writing all these loopy and circuitous texts all along. And so it's not so much postmodern. We think of the word postmodern when we think of, let's say, David Foster Wallace, but it's basically more than a specific period. It's kind of a textual structure. So for instance, and this might appear to be the most kind of unlikely book in this list, or this
Surprise,
non-list, which is
surprise.
Melville's Moby Dick. And I have this really beautiful, Library of America edition where there are other Melville novels like Red Burn and White Jacket. So we know that Moby Dick is an adventure story.
Yes, it is an adventure story. Call Me Ishmael, Captain Ahab and the Whale, and so on.
Yeah, it definitely is. But then, Melville stops the whale chase for 100 pages to talk about, well, blubber, ways to tie a knot, rope tying, and the color white, the philosophy of color white. So, in a sense, Moby Dick is also, it has a great plot, but I would say that it's not exactly plot driven,
Yeah,
or
it's
it's the
pretty
plot is,
digressive.
yeah, it's pretty digressive, and it kind of makes a point through that. And the digression create kind of a tension between Ismail's expansive, inquisitive nature and Captain Ahab's single-minded focus on the whale. And in that way, it kind of democratizes the novel, I think.
Awesome. So we just now talked about an old-ish novel, which is postmodern. But let's talk about a postmodern novel. We'll finish the episode with that, the ultimate postmodern book trap, and that is Italo Calvino's "If on a Winter's Night a Traveler." Unfortunately, I do not have a hard copy for this one, but this novel is about you, the reader, trying to read a novel called "If on a Winter's Night a Traveler."
Yeah, it's really
But
frustrating.
yes, yes. But every time you get settled into the story, the book sort of glitches. The printing is wrong. The pages are mixed up. You are sent to a bookstore to find the rest of the book to pick up, only to pick up a completely different book. And then it contains the first chapters of 10 different novels, none of which are ever finished. It captures the modern feeling of doom scrolling. Start a story, get bored, switch tabs, start another. It's sort of a book that refuses to be finished because it never truly began. So as Shubhendu says, it's really frustrating, but I must say that it is one of my all-time favorites. It's just amazing that the author even thought of such a thing, but it somehow seems very obvious and very real.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I definitely love reading it. So yeah, that's our general point. Kind of reading all these frustrating but truly delightful books
Yeah.
in 2026.
Yeah, and the best thing is that like these books can be read again and again and again. So we are completely against the idea that you need to keep buying more and more books even though you never finish it. Although we are the anti-library, technically we do not mind that as such, but then we also don't think that it is necessary that you need to spend like a lot of money in order to be erudite, well read.
Yeah, yeah. You can also get all these books from libraries like we did.
Yeah, yeah.
So in our next episode, um, she will come back with Bridgerton. Till then, keep just turning the page. Don't bother about finishing the book.